Hi, everybody. It's good to be back with you today, and thanks for having me here. And Governor, thank you for inviting me again. So, at the press conference I was at last week, kind of talked about we are at a different point in the pandemic. We're really continue to head in the right direction. And I want to just remind people, what we're talking about now is far different than where we were 2 years ago. We're talking about now we're dealing with a preventable, treatable disease. So it's a different time, and we're heading in a good direction. But we use the word endemic, and I doubt the word endemic is used around anyone's kitchen table at night. But what endemic means, it's just like a permanent disease, like almost every other disease we talk about, whether it's strep throat or just other diseases we deal with, like it's going to become endemic at some point. It's still a pandemic as the whole planet's dealing with this, but this is going to become an endemic disease. So, as we move in that, we have to find a new balance. We have to have, a little bit of perspective in this. And I think you're going to see as we head down, a little bit like an airplane coming in for a landing, if you will. We're trying to control the descent so you have a smooth landing. But I can't promise there won't be some bumps with the BA2. It's a little bit of a wild card here. I'm not super worried about BA2, just to get that out in the open. Omicron, BA2, we've seen a couple cases in our state. I don't think you're going to see the same problem around that you saw in other parts of the world because it appeared so late in our state. So I think BA2 might give us a little bit of a plateau, but I think for the most part we're heading in the right direction, and will head in the right direction. What we're not saying is masks are no longer needed in schools. What we're talking about is like lifting a statewide mask mandate and returning this to the local school districts. Let local educational agencies make their own decisions. The Department of Health is happy to make recommendations. We're going to release those recommendations. We're going to talk them over with schools, run them through the rest of the team here throughout state government. But we plan on making sure that no school district feels like they're left alone on this. If they want our advice, we're happy to give it, and quite frankly, I think it's an important topic that people would want to receive. What we're really talking about is kind of more targeted approaches at this point. And I think when you get into the notion about being in a public space, kind of like the governor said, if you're not up to date in your vaccine, I'd still wear a mask, and if you're unvaccinated, you're much higher risk. And I think these are just important things to keep in the back of your mind. Another thing to think about too is, if you have an underlying health condition, which is, by the way, a lot of people in Rhode Island, if you have heart disease, diabetes, you're recovering from cancer, kidney disease, you're probably going to want to wear a mask as well when you're out in public, just to protect yourself. And one of the things I want to get out there and clear is, this pandemic's been really too much of everything, but much too much of judgment. You know what I mean? Quite frankly, life is hard enough without people judging somebody wearing a mask, whether they're vaccinated or not vaccinated. If someone's wearing a mask, just move on with your life to wearing a mask, and it's none of our business, really. And quite frankly, I think just a little more calmness and sanity and kindness about this would go an awful long way for everybody, and just make the descent of this flight much more enjoyable for everybody here. I do want to remind people that there are some federal requirements, so if you're in public transportation, you'll still need to wear a mask. That's independent of our state guidance. I want to shift now and talk a little bit about vaccine for younger children. So we have vaccines for kids 5 and older. As you may have seen in the news, you're seeing the federal health agencies are now talking about vaccines for children 6 months to kids under 5. So the Pfizer vaccine is the one that people are talking about, and you're going to hear more about that through the Food and Drug Administration, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and the Advisory Committee Immunization Practices are all going to be talking about this in the coming weeks. So my message to parents is please wait for our official announcement on this. We have to wait for the federal entities to give guidance in this. We have to receive the vaccine in the state, and then we have to distribute it to places where they can actually give it to you. So we're going to let you know when this becomes available. The other thing I just want to mention too is, like, I think a lot of people know this, I'm not just board certified in preventive medicine, I'm also board certified in pediatrics. So as a pediatrician, I love giving vaccines. I love giving vaccines because I don't like seeing children. I like seeing well kids. Really, it's funny, the older I get in my career, the more I just enjoy the well baby exam, and the less I enjoy taking care of sick children, because I like kids being healthy. So vaccines are really important. So I just want to remind the pediatricians in the state that we're counting on you to be the ones who give the kids their vaccines in your offices. We know parents trust pediatricians and family physicians, and they want to give vaccines in their usual medical home. So the medical home is really the safest place and the best place and where kids feel most comfortable. So when that 6 month under 5 crowd comes around, we know that's where kids are going to be more comfortable. If you're a pediatrician or family physician and you're looking to sign up to be a COVID vaccine provider, the website is covid.ri.gov/VAX providers. Finally, I do want to wrap up a little bit. We have a holiday on the calendar coming up here. A lot of people don't know that Super Bowl Sunday is a holiday, but it kind of is. Even if the Patriots aren't playing, it turns out it's still a big event for the planet, right? So, school vacation week's coming up too, right? And so part of what I'm getting at is these holidays are kind of a thing for us, right? We usually see case spikes when there's holidays. So a couple thoughts. When you gather for the holiday, and there's so much pressure to gather for a holiday because it's fun to look forward to, but if you're symptomatic, runny nose, cough, body aches, feeling tired, you really should test before you gather, and ideally, probably best not to go to the party you were invited to. I'm just telling you, your host didn't expect you to come to the party they were hosting sick. I can just tell you, someone who loves having parties, I really don't expect my guests to bring illness into my home. And I just think it's important to keep that in mind. Please don't bring your symptoms into someone else's party. Watch it on TV in your own home. I do want to remind people, too, that it's not a bad idea just to go ahead and get up to date in that vaccine. If you're gathering for a party, all the more reason to get your booster dose. The governor's been very helpful in this regard, talking about the importance of a booster dose. 37% of us have gotten that booster dose. Quite frankly, it's just not enough to see us through where we're headed here. So I really don't, I want to emphasize this as important as I can here. We just need to get everybody up to date here, and it really is an important public health intervention. Things are going in the right direction, but we've seen this roller coaster throughout the whole pandemic. I, for one, would like this flight to come in for a landing. Everyone wants to just get on the runway and just stop going off and taking off again with more cases. I think it's all time for us to go to that resort and just enjoy our lives again and be done with this pandemic. Getting everybody up to date is probably the closest and nearest way we're going to get to the end of this pandemic. So it really does help you with your immunity.